So I want to start by saying, my CTO was supposed to come. I'm the CEO. I'm more of an ML engineer, and whenever I talk about infrastructure, he makes fun of me. So I was kind of brushing up on ClickHouse, and he was sort of like, "Ooh, I don't know if this talk is going to go well. Maybe we should more stick to like the benefits, the business benefits." So, but I do want to. We really feel grateful to ClickHouse, and it really is deep in some of the things the product can do. So I'm going to stick mostly to what the product does, and then at the end, kind of connect it to how ClickHouse helped us build our new product. So first of all, like I think I've been in the AI space for many years, like 20 years at this point. I feel compelled to say that with every company adding like .ai to their URL and then raising huge valuations. But it's really exciting because I think the democratization of AI is here, right? We see almost every company investing in AI, and then we see this incredible thing happening where Gen AI moves into production. Every day we see new exciting applications. You see kind of new apps that do AI in exciting ways, and I'm overall really excited about this. It's easy to kind of get cynical, especially in San Francisco, but having worked in AI for years and years and years where it disappoints, being in AI now where it's like working in so many unexpected ways is just absolutely a joy. But then the problem that I built Weights and Biases to solve when I started it 5 years ago has gotten even worse. And this is the fundamental problem, right? AI is so easy to demo and it's so hard to get into production. And it's like, all software is kind of like that, right? I feel like in software, you talk about the first 90%, the second 90%, and then the third 90%. I feel like in AI, there might be like 10, 90%. And even then you don't know if it'll like ever get into production. Anyone that's like managed an AI project or been part of it, you kind of know that you can go from not working to kind of working in a day, and that might mean it's going to work great tomorrow, or it might mean that you'll never get there, right? And like you look at Waymo is such an amazing example where, I remember 15 years ago, Google X talking about, hey, we're going to have self-driving cars out in like 2 or 3 years. And then, Elon Musk kept saying it's 2 years out, it's 2 years out, it's 2 years out. We were like making fun of him even when we started the company, and now we take Waymos all the time. So it eventually kind of gets into production. But what we really wanted to help with was getting projects from demo to production. That's like what we're really passionate about at Weights and Biases. And I think the big issue in AI development is that there's a known workflow, but there's not good tools for that workflow. Like in software, there really is high quality tools for every step of the process. And that actually really does help you. You would not build software without version control, right? It's so simple. You never do that in a million years, build software without version control. But, for AI applications, there's actually a lot that's going on in the AI that never gets saved into version control. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the problems here, right? And so, we started the company. The big question investors had, because it was 5 years ago, it was actually different. Like AI tools, it wasn't like half of YC was AI tools. It was like actually AI tools seemed like maybe it was a bad idea. The big question investors had was, hey, like what's the difference between software development and AI development? And I really had to think about it. And, it's like, I think the difference here is that software development is linear, where you just keep, kind of gradually adding functionality and features and mostly you're kind of moving forward. Versions kind of split, but they come back and they split and come back. You make branches and you merge them back. Whereas in AI development, almost everything that you try never sees the light of day, like almost everything, right? And that's why the versions in AI are actually called experiments, really, right? And so almost every, prompt that you create, you're not going to use it. So the workflow is not this like kind of iterative improving process. The workflow is like running lots of experiments and trying to figure out what happened, right? And it's always the case, if you make something better, something else gets worse. It's just, how do you feel about the trade-offs here? What happens is, I think in software development, your code is like your IP. And I think companies understand this and they protect it and they care about it. But in AI, the code is not really your IP. Like in AI development, it's the things that you learn along the way that's your IP. And that doesn't get saved anywhere. That doesn't get saved into like a code, into like a core repository. And so it's a big problem, right? If you just picked up the Waymo, if you inherited the Waymo code base, but you didn't learn all the things that they kind of learned during the development process, you'd have to repeat all those experiments to kind of get up to speed. And so people talk about a reproducibility crisis in AI. And it's because, to have, when you can reproduce stuff, that means you're actually keeping track of all the learnings. And when you don't have reproducibility, it means you're not actually keeping track of all the learnings. And so people kind of know, like, hey, we should make our stuff reproducible. But reproducibility is super hard. It's super painful. And this is, again, because of the lack of tools. So at Weights and Biases, we're just really passionate about helping people track everything. And then I think similar to how Git led to GitHub and led to like new kinds of collaboration and software making collaboration easier, I think when Weights and Biases tracks things, what it really does, it leads to collaboration, which leads to speed of deployment, right? So that's at the end of the day, the sort of like business ROI is like getting things from demo into production faster. So that's what Weights and Biases has been all about. That's all the products we make. We're about 250 people, mostly in San Francisco. And when we started, how many of you does the name Weights and Biases make sense to? I'm kind of curious. Anybody like thinking, oh, I get that? Okay, yeah. So you see, we kind of picked a weird name. And that was because we felt like, okay, we serve this really core persona called an ML engineer that sort of understands that name. But then along the way, our kind of core persona split into 3 different sets of people with really different needs. So there's kind of this real subset of the ML engineers that we call foundation model builders. So this is the people building, like OpenAI's GPT or Llama's Meta, right? And this is this is actually all in our neighborhood near Weights and Biases, and we want to serve them well. Then there's also the AI engineers that kind of the bread and butter, like people building, building a Waymo or building a drug discovery system. This is kind of like what's out in the real world until recently. But then there's sort of this new group of people like software developers now that every software developer can easily become an AI developer by accessing LLMs. But when you become that AI developer, you're now like entering this world of non-determinism, right? And this really big challenge from getting from demo into production. So, we work with all the foundation model companies. This has really worked well for us. This is like where our product really is, was really outstanding. Like, all the GPT models were built on top of Weights and Biases. All the Llama models were built on top of Weights and Biases. So probably no foundation model builders in the audience. If you are, I'm impressed. This is maybe outside of the scope. Then there's the kind of enterprise where we make, most of our money with our sets of tools. So pharma companies, retail, fintech, manufacturing. This is kind of where you see, machine learning taking off. But actually, that's not what I wanted to talk about here. What I want to talk about is sort of the new group of software developers building Gen AI applications that we care about. And we kind of realized, about a year and a half ago, we need a new product for this software developer audience. Like the pain points are really similar in the sense of like tracking things and tracking experiments, but the persona was so different. We split that out into a new product. For example, ML engineers are really comfortable with like math and statistics. They really like it. They want to have graphs with complicated error bars and complicated metrics, whereas software developers, find that kind of uncomfortable and kind of want things that look a little bit more like. But on the other hand, software developers are used to things like stack traces, right? That's like really obvious to them. So we kind of had to rethink things from a different person's point of view. And then we actually built a whole bunch of Gen AI apps internally and thought about like, what are the best practices here, right? Because we've seen so many customers, especially in bigger enterprises, launch applications and then have them fall really flat. And there's something about Gen AI, this is being recorded, but I'll just say it. There's something about Gen AI that makes companies really stupid about product. It's like really, like, I feel like companies launch products, I guess I won't name names, but you can think of some where, you're just like, how did that product ever see the light of day? Did anyone try it? Like, you know what I mean? Did one person try it? And I think the problem is that people are not used to this non-determinism, right? Like in ML, you've had this non-determinism for years. So you wouldn't just try an ML product once and decide, okay, it's good, ship it. But I think with a lot of kind of software products where ML is not involved, you tried a couple times, you sort of use the script that your developer told you, like, oh, this looks pretty good. You know what I mean? Let's just go with it. So the key with Gen AI apps, I think, is to take a more ML style of development and start with a prototype, have an evaluation framework, and incorporate that evaluation early on into your process, and then iterate. It's like, it sounds simple, but honestly, we see customers not doing this. So the product we made was to support this flow, right? So we wanted to help people basically like visualize all their LLM calls, right? It has to be like passively in the background. You hook this up like with one line of code. We want to show your LLM, like all your LLM calls, right? We want it to say, okay, like let's save and version all of your data sets, right? Save everything that you do. And these data sets are funny because, you might have like 1 million records. And then if you're in Europe, there could be like from privacy notice, we have to remove like 1 record out of like 1 million. And now you have a data set that's like 1 million minus 1, right? That you're maybe fine tuning your model or testing your model on. So it needs to have a special kind of versioning that works with these large data sets. We needed to do, really good evaluation across lots of different types, right? So, like one thing that we see with like mature Gen AI products is they end up with like thousands of evaluations. Because there's so many different ways to like look at something. Like we have an internal chatbot, and it's like, what does it like accuracy really mean for a chatbot, right? It's sort of different if the chatbot, points you to the wrong documentation versus it like creates like a fake documentation that's like totally wrong and like sends you in the wrong direction, versus tells you I don't know versus answers your question. These are kind of all different scenarios. And so you end up with like a lot of different metrics on like how much can I trust this? How typically relevant is it? Does it get the hard questions right? Things like that. And then there's a different kind of feedback. So this is kind of your internal testing, but also every application, has an end user, and you want to incorporate that end user feedback quickly back into the product. So we've built tools to sort of capture, like help the end user, whether it's an internal kind of business user or an external consumer user, kind of say, how do I feel about what's going on? And this could be like in text, it could be like an emoji, but you want to like synthesize all that data into one place. And then finally, we want you to be able to kind of compare all the different things you're doing in complicated ways, because, a lot of companies, they say, well, shoot, GPT maybe starting to look expensive. We want to try Llama, but what's that going to do? And even, if you're using a third party LLM, they can change the underlying LLM and not tell you, right? So it's kind of a wild thing to be relying on a third party API that's actually changing out, from under you, and that could actually change your quality of results. And now the interesting thing with all these things, right? Like on a small scale, these would all work on like any database that we would use. But the one thing we've actually learned from, and this is really true, people talk about like pre-production and post-production in ML and in Gen AI. But really, when you do this process well and you start with a lightweight prototype and you iterate, there's not really a pre-production process. Whatever you're doing in pre-production ends up in post-production, right? So when we first shipped our first product, Weights and Biases, people immediately started using it for production monitoring, right? And this is actually even tougher where you have this problem where like people really want fast live results immediately on their data at small scale, but then they never shut it off, and it needs to scale to billions of records almost immediately, right? We have some like customers with consumer-facing stuff that like immediately goes into billions of records. That's why we feel so grateful to ClickHouse, because it was the only product that gave us low latency and then scaled. So it's really as simple as that from my perspective, and that gave us a magical experience for our customers that they actually didn't have with their first product, because we didn't actually use ClickHouse with it, where there's not a point where you have to kind of switch and say, now I'm in post-production, which really fits the Gen AI workflow well. So, we've been working through with the team different deployment options and security things. I would say, ClickHouse actually is the one company we've encountered that does the same thing we do, which is we try to get in our customers' Slack channels to help them. So we're like helping them right where they're at. And then we were so charmed when ClickHouse came into our Slack channel, and it was just like, ooh, like we can work with this company. They're like the same, And so we've just really loved that interaction and really loved the product. And that as we've kind of gone to customers together and run into security stuff, you all have been super helpful. So sincerely, we've loved working with ClickHouse, and the architecture has been super easy to set up, and the value prop to us is just the low latency and scalability is amazing.